know which hurt worse, the rejection or the embarrassment. Fortunately, I didn't have long to consider it. Because of my rather unstable emotional state, I tried to escape. Only tears blinded me, and instead of charging out of the room, I charged headlong into the half-open door.
Were you alright?
I had a concussion, apparently, but Elfnut had no trouble healing it. He's pretty incredible. That's part of why I fell for him so hard.
Ash reached out and put her arm around Belinda's shoulder, pulling her into a hug.
I'm so sorry that happened.
I've already moved past it.
Still, yikes.
Hey, at least you got your mind off your rejection.
The memory of her most recent misfortune returned into a wave of Ash's mind, and it's gonna hit back click. Dang it. Fuck. Ash felt her face twist into a grimace.
Oops.
For a moment, the two stood in silence, shoulders sunk.
Ice cream?
Ice cream.
With that, they were off to the kitchen, hoping they would find fresh cream and sufficient ice. The letter took the messenger's hawk a day. The return reply was succulent. We shall leave out on the morrow. We have a great deal of interest in this grey mage, both his origins and in his abilities. A week passed before the heads actually arrived. Though apparently hurried, they took their time approaching the palace, ensuring they had lodgings. Oh shit, I forgot to save. Though apparently hurried, they took their time approaching the palace, ensuring they had lodgings, and then having their horses properly stabled before even beginning the approach.
Are you ready?
Prue gave her a somber nod. Hector patted at his pocket, full of black roses, and nodded. Ash's own pockets were full as well. She didn't really know why, but they were a comfort.
This idea still terrifies me.
It'll be fine.
I know my curiosity can only go so much longer without being sated.
Prue pulled Hector in close and the two kissed.
We'll get you back, okay?
Hector nodded and Prue stepped into one of the rooms immediately to the side of the court, hiding behind layers of curtain.
They're coming.
I thought you didn't want to use this form of communication anymore.
Yeah, but your messenger bird is dumb, and they're
Closing in on her.
Have you decided to do anything about it?
I don't know yet. I don't know what side they're on in this fight.
Not yet.
You'd better make your decision quickly. The cultists are closing in. I can sense them.
Don't you have any...
advice?
No, I'm done. I don't do this anymore. Too many mistakes.
Please.
Just trust your heart. It's one of the only good ones I know anymore.
Ash's mind fell silent, save for her own thoughts. Before she had a chance to collect them, Zechariah opened the door, leading the way for Lucinia, an enormous cloaked figure. One of her golems likely, a good form of protection on a long road. The grey mages were closing in, if the voices could be believed. That would rather convenient, and besides would provide some sense of their motivation if they were about to attack right now.
It's good to see you again, all of you. I'm sorry for how things ended last time, but I am afraid the rules are rules.
We understand.
Why is Mr. Warlock in chains?
Did you bring the Rod of Finding?
Lucinia's face turned to a mask of shock while Zechariah only grew harder.
Prudence?
Please, the Rod.
Zachariah removed the rod from a sheath at her hip. The rod burst to life almost immediately. Zachariah had apparently already performed the spell. She waved it before her eyes and sneered. 2 black dots for Ash and Belinda, a white for Elfnod, and a mildly shimmy gray wad where Hector stood.
You always were a monster, weren't you, Warlock?
This is why we asked you here. We believe there are more. Please, I beseech you, use the rod on the rest of the city and aid us in ferreting out the remaining assassins.
Before we do that, please, have your guards leave and then lock the doors. What we are about to discuss cannot be overheard. We have my golem to protect us in an emergency. Guards will be of little consequence to a Grey Mage anyway.
The king beckoned to her guards, and they did as commanded. As the latches sound, Lucinia began to breathe a sigh of relief.
I admit, I had heard rumors of a couple intending to produce a child Grey Mage. But that was so many years ago, and no member of either order ever produced reports of such. I had simply assumed such attempts had bore no fruit. To think I had such a creature under my tutelage for so long. And yet I cannot help but wonder at the purpose of this farce.
How did you know that Hector did not kill my daughter?
Lucinia raised her hand and tapped her mark.
You forgot to cover the boy's hand.
Hector flushes. He looked down to expose the spider.
But Grey Mages don't lose their mark when they eat another's organs.
No, but the mark changes.
Some might say it corrupts.
How do you know so much?
We are the heads of the orders. We would be remiss if there were any parts of magic we were not well versed in.
Lucinia laughed.
It's the primary reason Zachariah was so often at odds with Mr. Warlock.
Fine, you know it was a sham to bring you here. We need your help to find the Grey Mages who are hunting us. We think they're after Ash. We think she may be paired to one. That, or they may be after me.
That's awful presumptuous of you.
What?
No. They were after Prudence and the king.
Luciana, how do you know of this?
Because, my dearest niece, we hired them.
Lucinia tore the cloak from the golem at her side. The golem was unlike anything else Ash had ever seen before. It was wood.
I cannot thank you enough for all your research. I had never imagined how much more effective a golem crafted from wood could be until I saw your research into plants. I haven't quite gotten reanimation of plants down, but, well, golems were a simple matter for me, and startlingly effective. Now that we have the doors locked, and all the main players trapped in here with us.
Lucinia extended her arms, sickly green energy coiled from around her each finger.
Golem, kill!
I don't even know how I feel about this, bitch. What? where? Oh fuck, I can't even do this right. The creature closed the distance to Hector in a moment, and Ash heard a wet, snappy noise as he flew like a rag dog across the room. Elfnar did not even have the chance to draw his sword, as another blow left him bent awkwardly around a pillar. Belinda, right beside him, leaped desperately out of the way of a stump. Zachariah began to slowly, almost gleefully, draw her blade, marching towards the king. Prude was upon in the blink of an eye, leaping from the side room, arm flashing as she drove straight towards Zachariah's face.
We're related. Let me guess. That white spiked monstrosity on top of your head used to be red?
Zachariah sneered. Ash became aware that she had been standing stunned. She had to help. Turning to Lucia, she curled a finger and then arched a curse at the head mage. Lucia barely moved as the curse dissolved mid-fight. Ash twined a bolt of Ash twined a bolt of malignants, boiling green with necrotic energy, and unleashed the wave of rot towards Lucia. The head dissolved with a single breath. The curse that struck Ash came quick and sudden. She felt her fingers bend, then curl awkwardly, the bones contorting. Ash could only barely stifle a scream as she clawed desperately at the distant ball of whiteness, the same she had called upon to empower her reanimation spells. The grip felt almost tangible as she found it. The pain seemed to fade slightly, and she looked up to meet the gaze of not Lucia, but her goal. The creature raised an enormous fist high above its head, and Ash reached deeper. Inside her swirled the magics of repair, black and white, intermingling wildly. She slammed her open palm down upon the creature's foot and felt the sap begin to flow. Scars left by the woodsman's axe began to close, the ebony echre ringing its way across open wounds, clotting them shut. New growth burst wildly until the arch across the creature's back, a bloom of midnight leaves began to unfurl. The white-hot green of its eyes began to fade to a dull gray, and then to a lifeless black. The creature opened its hands as though seeing it for the first time, and examined it entirely. It leaves something to swell as it breathed.
What did you do?
Ash found her feet beneath her and forced herself to stand.
I took your golem.
I don't need it to defeat you!
Are you that mad? Ash felt the curse strike like a blow to the head, and then 1,000 times more. It hammered with a fury that blinded her. She fell to her knees. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear the woman's footstep click as she came closer.
You dirty little girl! I will find the secret to your magic, and I will ensure that history will write its origin as me. My discovery will change necromancy as we know it. An unfortunate victim of an assassination.
Pain struck Ash, pin pricks in her head, an afterthought to the hammering in her skull. Opening her eyes, she pulled forth a black rose. She gasped, pain lashing at her thoughts, catching the sweet scent of the dead rose. Ash felt it burn inside her long before she knew what to do with it. She reached up, desperately clawing for air, arched her hand towards the head as the woman snarled, bearing down on her. Then the air rippled, a shadow cast across reality, and bloom in darkness, Lucia fell. The pain stopped immediately, and Lucia writhed on the floor. Ash couldn't even tell how much of her was missing, but somehow the head was still alive. Ash forced herself to her knees. Elfnar and Belinda were still out, though Belinda had dragged herself to Edna and seemed to be trying to soothe them back to awareness. At least they weren't dead. Hector was motionless. Even his chest did not rise. Where was Prude? Ash searched the courtroom. On the far side of the courtroom, Sakurai had let go of her sword, the tip of the blade buried deep in the wall. The length held a most motionless King Celeste and proved writhing wildly. Pierced though it left her chest, she gasped for breath, blood pouring from beneath her lips. Magic, desperate, trying to seal the wound.
Prudence!
The sword belongs to one of the Grey Mages we hired, you know. Luciana was smart enough to convince me not to bring.
Zachariah stopped mid-sentence, turned to see Luciana on the ground, almost half her body seared away.
No.
Zachariah charged to her love, dropping to her knees, tears in her eyes.
No. No. No, no, no. Nothing was worth losing you, my love. No kingdom was worth this price.
Zachariah began to blaze with violent white night, pouring it into charcoal that the rains of the most grievous of her wife's wounds.
Come back. Come back.
Zachariah pressed her head against Lucinia's chest and closed her eyes, tearing eyes, smiling.
She's breathing. She has a pulse. After all this, I will heal her. She may lose an arm, even her legs, but she will never lose me.
Zachariah slowly paced a kiss on the lips of her unconscious lover and stood up, holding 3 stones remnant of debris.
3 of you left.
Elfnod had finally opened his eyes, and Belinda stared into them, smiling. Her expression suddenly turned blank. A small debris hit the wall behind her. Elfnod looked confused until the blood began to pour from a gaping hole into her chest where her heart should be. She collapsed. Another block ricocheted wildly as it detonated Elfnod's shield.
You've been practicing.
Ash pulled free a fistful of black roses, and drawing a breath of violent fervor, she let forth another gout of black flames. The inkling black washed over Zachariah like a water over glass.
Interesting.
Stop her!
Ash's voice cracked as she shouted, but the creature seemed to hear closing in on Zachariah, swinging in with all its might. Zachariah met the punched head, swinging with all of her strength. The wood splintered as she grabbed an arm and tore it free. A kick brought the beast low, and a third strike left it motionless.
Hector never really realized how much power we truly wielded as heads, and yet he dismissed us so easily, as though he always had some trick up his sleeve, a trump card.
Zachariah heaved the enormous beast above her head, and with a motion as quick as an afterthought, sent it crashing into the forms of Elfnod and Belinda.
Tell me, Miss Veronica Ashmar, do you have a trump card?
Ash reached into her pocket. No flowers remained. She tried to draw upon the wells once more, but no spell she could think of seemed enough. In desperation, she threw her strongest curse. Zachariah took it head on, but no hammering pain struck her, no twisting of joints, no boiling of blood, no searing pain, no virulent decay. She merely stood.
I wish I could make your death slow, let you know exactly how angry I am. But I can only imagine it will be a few more moments before those doors open. Can you hear the ringing in your ears over the pain that you feel right now? You're likely so numb, it wouldn't be worth my time to torture you anyway. Goodbye, Ash.
The blade blossomed through Zachariah's throat and ripped outwards, spraying Ash with a rain of blood. Zachariah fell to her knees and slumped to the floor. The figure in the gray cloak walked over to Lucinia and sliced open her throat. Blood loss will kill both of them in seconds. The cloak was familiar, a pale gray reminiscence of Sonia Iclet. The figure following them in the rain. The figure she rode past in the snow. This was the Grey Mage. The assassin approached her and reached out their right hand. There was a phoenix mark.
You need to save your friends.
Huh? Momentarily stunned, Ash struggled to find her response.
How? Aren't you the paladin in our pairing? I felt that power.
Ash gestured towards her mark.
What? No, I don't have any powers like that. Spiraling stars, girl. Use the white magic you were using earlier with the plant.
What? I don't know how to do that.
I do.
Hector had finally stirred. The death twisting in his back seemed to have straightened, but the legs were still broken, bent sharply in the wrong direction at each femur.
Please bring Prude and her mother to me. Get them off that sword.
Ash found them both unmoving and tried to pull the sword free and remained stuck. The man in the cloak pushed her aside and tore it free with a practiced ease that made Zachariah's early strength seem that of a child. Toward the sword aside, he heaved both bodies and brought them to Hector. Hector checked the king first, flinched, moving wordlessly to Prude.
She can still live.
How? You haven't used your light magic since you were a child. Even Zachariah couldn't heal a wound like that.
I have a plan.
Then why not the king?
She is more broken than I can repair.
Please, help!
Ash and the cloaked man turned to the rubble of Golem and the pillar that collapsed on it.
Get him out of there.
Please. Help her.
Beneath the hood, the man grimaced. Ignoring the clear lack of acceptance of the grim fate of Elfnard's pair, the man scooped up her body, his hood finally falling back. Ash gave us the cooking boy carried the body to Hector. The sight was almost enough to distract her from Hector himself. In Hector's hand was a beating heart. A pale white glow pulsing in its depths, its arteries and veins, and what appeared to be a number of organs snaked wildly around its A pale white glowing pulse in its depths, its arteries and veins, and what appears to be a number of organs snaked wildly around its as he forced it into Prude's chest. The tendrils flared for a moment before burrowing into her body and dragging her heart in place. The sight sickened her, and she turned her disgust to Hector. It was then that Ash noticed the gaping wound in Hector's own heart.
Please, save her.
Elfnard was near delirious himself, clearly at least in shock, if not cruelly injured. He screamed one more and seemed to fall asleep. Hector grimaced and forced his hand back inside of his own chest. He did not scream as he watched. Ash could hear flesh tearing. The second heart with, but it seemed to lack the life of the first.
Put this in her chest.
The cook nodded to emulate the action Hector had taken with the first. The dark settled into Belinda's chest like an animal in a den. Hector closed his eyes and placed his hand over the wound in his chest. Why hadn't the doors opened? Surely the guards should arrive by now. She could hear the pounding now. Turning, she found the metal rent, twisting the doors together, sealing them shut.
I can't be caught here. Not if I have any hope of stopping the cultists.
The cultists?
The Grey Mages are still coming. You said in your message.
Ash surveyed the carnage.
We're not ready.
No, not the Grey Mages. The Knights of the Blade.
Who?
The boy gestured at the two heads.
I don't have time for that right now. I have to leave.
Please, just tell me who you are. We're paired. That means something, you know.
I'm starting to realize that. But we're about to have company. Take care. We'll meet again.
Please, at least tell me why I wasn't paired to a girl.
That was an odd question, but it bothered her more than she cared to admit.
Well, I actually am a gal.
Yes! I told you she could put... A hand passed over the boy's face, revealing a face almost as alien as it was beautiful. Black skin like blue veneer and long flowing locks of white hair as white as the purest snow, because she's a dark elf. And she had ice showed polished jade in her plain slip as a dark red pill to the back to the real, the perfect tea, save for Candace just as blade too long to be him. I'm so sorry. She's bays. She's bays. Look at that. Look at Bay. Can I cosplay as her Bay? She twitched ears roughly 7 inches long and leaned in close. She could Ash smell fire and cinnamon on her. She was the most beautiful person Ash had ever seen.
My name is Tara, but try to keep calling me Cooking Boy, and do your best to keep the whole changeling thing a secret.
Bitch, I already knew you changed. I already knew you changed. Girl, you're our baes. You are bae. I need to soak this in.